From the center of the universe, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, this is the SDM Show with your host, Rob Cairns. The SDM Show focuses on business, life, productivity, digital marketing, WordPress, and more. Sit back, relax, grab your favorite drink, and enjoy the show. Here is Rob.
Hey everybody, I'm Rob Cairns. I'm the founder, CEO, and chief creator of Amazing Ideas at Stunning Digital Marketing. In today's show, I have Mr. Todd Jones with me, and Todd and I are going to talk all about frameworks. Sit back, relax, enjoy the show. The SDM Show is brought to you by Stunning Digital Marketing, the digital marketing concierge that helps you put all your marketing pieces together. We are your marketing experts. We are also your WordPress security experts and know how to lock down a website and protect yourself from bad actors. So contact us at Stunning Digital Marketing today. Hey, everybody, Rob Cairns here. I'm here with my good friend, Mr. Todd Jones, and we're going to talk all about copywriting. How are you today, Todd?
Hey man, I'm getting by. I'm making it.
Yeah.
Trying to smile and
Today,
wave. Smile and wave.
I, I hear you. Today, you wanted to talk all about frameworks and about frameworks, especially around copywriting. So, where did you want to go with that?
Well, okay. I remember a few years ago, and I kind of, I learned from a lot of people in copywriting and direct response and conversion copywriting. I used to hang out with the copy hackers people. I go to
Yep.
Tuesday to Tutorial Tuesday. She would do, and I would say it's an over the shoulder look at stuff. Joanna Weed from Copy Hackers, and she's a Canadian. I think more in the western part of the state or country than where you live. But anyway, she had this, and I stumbled across. I mean, I started like reading her stuff and devouring the blog articles, and even bought a couple of ebooks, whatnot. And she had this massive um, blog post, which still exists, by the way, because I went and found it this morning, um, about copy frameworks. Let me see. Let me I actually have the article pulled up, and I'll tell you what she calls it. And what the title of it is. It's like, oh, every copywriting formula ever, or the ultimate guide to no pain copywriting. Now they're frameworks, but she calls them formulas here. But they're frameworks,
Yep.
they're copy frameworks. And so she says at some point over 200 of them in here. And I noticed this morning, it hadn't been on in a while. She had updated this page, but there's everything from web page copy, frameworks, long form sales pages, landing pages, email ad, pricing pages, about page, blog posts, and lead gen. And some of that may even be added because I don't remember an about page formula before. But nevertheless, she and I kind of cut my teeth on that, like finding. That's when the world of frameworks opened up to me in terms of copywriting. Frameworks are
Yep.
different than a template in that regard, because I think people people are used to templates, right?
Hmm.
There's a difference. Uh, uh, Frameworks are more flexible. They kind of are more like guideposts. Templates are more rigid, fill in the blanks,
Yep.
less room for
Yep.
creativity. So I've always kind of preferred frameworks.
So, can I
Sound like you
stop
were
you
going to
right
say
there for a
something, so I
sec?
was pausing. Yeah, yeah.
I am. So, frameworks or templates or any of this stuff is really a system for doing how you do your copywriting in this case. It
Well,
just
you're
it
going to
just
steal my
helps you.
thumb. You're going to steal my thunder. So that's all right. Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. So I'm going to keep going.
No,
And
it's fine.
part
Go
of the
ahead.
problem with frameworks and templates and systems in general, and I don't care if it's copywriting or running your own business or doing a website or doing how you automate, you have to be open to using the framework or the system or the template to start with. And I think a lot
Hmm.
of people in our space aren't open to system. And that's part of the problem because it doesn't help them streamline their business. What do you think about that?
I can't speak for other people. My brain works this way. And you know
Mhm.
that I have created a number of frameworks over the last several years. And
You
even when
have?
I go back to being a kid, I would make up. Um, I made up freaking basketball tournaments. I had my own top 10 poll for the music. I was just that's just I made things up. I don't know what that says about me.
Me too.
Actually, kind of went down the human design, learning about that recently, and it squares away with my human design. As somebody who systematizes things,
Hmm.
except for my own desk. Apparently, there's no system here. It's chaotic, but
Yeah.
anyway, just I've kind of systemized, especially like it's a process. It's like I have created
Hmm.
the process and named it in case somebody else finds it useful. So I
Yeah.
have created the one that probably made the biggest mark for me several years ago was the website copy framework, and it was just a system for writing your three most important pages on your website. But that's what it was. Um, and I tried to do it in a way, and several people bought it on Gumroad, used it. Many of them were uh, web consultants, so they bought the white label version and use it with their own
Hmm.
clients and so forth. And it's I do see it as an open um, framework. Frameworks are open, like so. Okay, you don't want to use the PAS, well, switch to something else,
Yeah.
because that's what you use the one you like. So the one most people think a lot about is AIDA, and that is the one that if you remember the it was first a play and then it became a movie. Glenn Ross.
Yeah.
There's old Alec Baldwell yelling at his salespeople, always be closing and coffee is for closers. And he writes on the chalkboard, remember AIDA, and he explains what that means. And this is a copy framework. So A is for attention, grab the reader's focus with a strong hook. I is interest, build curiosity or relevance. D
Yeah.
is desire, make the audience want what you offer. And A is action, prompt a clear step. Now, to me, it's hard for me to remember those, so I don't use AIDA very much because I guess it doesn't, the way my brain works, I don't, I have preferred the PAS because it's short and easy. There's only three of them. And then I've expanded to the Pastor, PASTOR. PAS is problematic state solution. And
Hmm.
that is typically your T if if you're expanding it out to Pastor, PASTOR. The T stands for your testimony or transformation. So you're dropping in there how the product and service transforms somebody. Um,
Yeah.
o is the offer. Um, that you have. So you're doing the offer, and then the R at the end is just like kind of a recall of the offer. Let's see, yeah, response. So you have the offer and you have a response. So the R is more like your call to action. There are so many, and certainly there's 200 on that article in that copy hackers Joanna and them have, but there are so many out there, and so if you're struggling to like, okay, I've got, in fact, let's just take the service page in the website copy framework. I basically used the pastor as the skeleton for the service page, PASTOR. Now I added some other stuff to it, but it basically follows the structure of PASTOR. If you are writing a page for a service or product that you're launching, a new one, and you're short on time, you don't have time to like hire somebody to do a launch for you and all that kind of stuff and create a long sales page, uh, use PASTOR to whip up that landing page so you can get it out in the world. Because sometimes the secret to success with a new product or service is not like spending hours crafting a wonderful page, but it's actually getting the offer out in the wild, especially if it
Of
has
course.
high demand. So
Of course.
these are, and so you started to go down that road a little bit. I see frameworks in two ways. One, obviously, is the copy frameworks, right? We talk
Yep.
about the PASTORs and the PASs and the AIDAs and all
Hmm.
the others that exist.
Hmm.
out there, and almost all of them use something. In fact, if you go to ChatGPT today and say, "I need you to write me a short landing page for this product," whatever, chances are ChatGPT is going to use one of the classic web copy frameworks to
Yep,
do that. The
it does.
other side of the framework that is something that has interested me lately, and you can see it in some of the most recent frameworks I have, is more of a mechanism. Direct response copywriters will talk about a mechanism. Basically, a mechanism is a process. So you're selling the process. You're like, so for instance, this is something you can do in the web security space.
Yeah,
You have a process. Now, I
I
take
do.
a little bit of anybody doing web copy has, or I'm sorry, web security has got some kind of a process they use.
Yep, yep.
The basic points may be the same across different platforms, but everybody has their unique spin on it, how they do it. But if you take Rob's stunning digital web security process, you can give it a name, you can brand it. I always say if you have a process, brand it. Even if it's the stunning, web security process or whatever, light bulb, Eureka process, whatever. Um, and then you give it a very relatable way of say of do, the point is that the customer understands, one, you have enough expertise to have your own process.
Yep.
Two, you know what you're doing. You've got a plan. And three, that you're professional. And when you have a process, so you don't have to give all the details of the process. In fact, I say that you don't. So I like rules of three, but threes and fives, seven at the most, steps of your process.
Mm-hmm.
Create it in a branded way. Use very easy to understand words, but that kind of fill in the blanks. And then on top of that, and then this is going back to David Garfield's book about um, persuasive, the persuasive code, is storytelling book on using short stories. You could go back and create a story about how the process works. And this, again, the story doesn't have to be detail oriented. It's like a barista explaining the process of slow brew. So I'm going to do a pour over for you. I love this. This is my favorite illustration for this. I actually took a class maybe 10 years ago, with a couple guys in at one of the coffee shops, and $25, best $25 ever spent. Well, it was not so much in terms of an ROI, it was more in terms of like, something I just really enjoyed doing and being a part of. So I took the coffee. I don't remember all the details, like, so many grams of coffee and so many grams of water and blah blah blah. That stuff, those are called recipes in the barista world. So you have the recipe you stick with. But what I learned was the process of doing a pour over. And you start with the hot water and you start at the
Yep.
top and you do the circle motion. I like to tell that story. It's a story, and you're not giving out specific details, but you're giving out enough that people see that you
Mhm.
know what you're doing. And I think it's always great to have a process, and so you think about a process. You are really building a framework for
Yep.
how you do something, or a mechanism. And so as a
Yep.
result, I have created a number. They all mostly center around content copy, but I've created some that have become prompts, a stack of prompts that it creates a process, right? You follow the prompt. Each prompt, there's a stack of
Mhm.
prompts, and so
Now,
uh, people can use that and like learn to build a core message, that kind of stuff.
what I would say, Todd, is even people say, I don't use a process, I don't use a framework. They use one informally built into their head one way or the other. I mean,
Uh-huh.
we know when people write, they all write similar ways. They all start off very similar. They all follow a similar format. That is a process, and it might be an informal framework, but it still is one, whether they
Yeah.
realize it or not.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know what the flex is about saying I don't have a process. What, that's not a flex to me. Saying you have a
No.
process of flex, because you're what you're telling
Yep.
people is you wing it every time. You don't want to tell
Yep.
customers that you wing it every time. I've got a
Mhm.
process. I just brought, let's say, because take
That
you or
better
Ryan, for
still.
example.
Let me reframe that. I have a tried and true process that's
Yeah,
been successful with multiple brands and
yeah,
achieved these results. Even better.
yeah.
Just reframe
Yeah,
it, right?
absolutely. But so as a web security expert, I know people like companies will come to you and say, "Hey, I've got 40 client websites I need to do security for." There's a process that you go through to onboard them to your business. There is a process, and
Yep.
there's a checklist. Even if it's a series of checks, a checklist,
Yep.
there's a process.
Yep.
When I used to work at the agency, I would do post and pre-launch, pre and post-launch QA.
Hmm.
Nobody else seemed
Hmm.
to want to do it, but I loved it, and I followed the checklist, and I kind of got where I didn't even really need the checklist. I just did it right based on memory,
Yep.
muscle
Yep.
memory. So you got to have a process. And my suggestion, if you're a business owner listening to this, is audit your process to figure out
Yep.
what it is. Put it on paper, um, name it, even if you name it the my business process, whatever.
Hmm.
Name it, and you're gonna have a process for a lot of internal activities. That's not something you necessarily have to share with your customer. But when it comes to doing something for your customer, if you have a process, name it. You don't have to be extremely specific about all the steps. That especially just think about it as a proprietary process. My process is proprietary whether you've filed a trademark or not. Think of it that way. What are the things you can tell your customer you do? Highlight stuff, 30,000 feet. That's what you say. When I start your account, what we do is this, and then next we do this, and then we do this, and we do this, and then and finally we do this. It's
Yep.
high level. It's enough for the client to go, hey, these guys have a process. They're serious about it, and they use it with all their customers. They've had wild success with it. I can trust them. And
Yep.
but that is what your copywriter is doing. So if you hire a copywriter, even if you're hiring a content writer, they're going to use some kind of formula, some kind of framework that they
Hmm.
love. It's something that's worked well for them, and that's why they keep doing it. There's not any magic in the framework per se. It's a guide, it's rails that keep them on track. The magic, if you will, is in like a lot of things actually, including the research of the customer. Like
Yep.
what are we saying
Agreed.
to the customer? Who is the customer? Those kind of things. I think a lot of companies, unfortunately, maybe don't have that down. And it's never been easier than ever to do a persona now with the emergence of AI tools. I mean, seriously, I just came across a tool today that so far is not gated. Maybe one day I'm going to look for some GPTs as well who do persona. And because
Mhm.
reality, we have a lot of us, unless you have a huge company with millions of customers, you probably already know the data of who your customer is. It's just a matter of
We do.
assimilating it and
Yep.
creating the persona. Just like Scott, who runs the coffee shop I go to, he knows all his customers. I've never seen that you walk in, and whether it's him or one of his baristas, they pretty much know what you want. And sometimes they've even started making it before you ask. They know what you're going to get every time. And if you say, hey,
Yep.
let me ask you, what does David get every time he comes in? Well, when David comes in, he's either getting this or he's getting this. What does Sabrina get when she comes in? Well, with Sabrina, it's one of three things. How about my friend Jan? Well, Jan's almost always going to get a chocolate hour. I mean, they know their customers, and most people know their customers because we interact with their customers. The ones that have to do extensive research are the ones with millions and billions of customers, and you do need to do research when you're at that level. But your small, medium businesses typically know, even if you don't, it wouldn't take much work but you need to have that um, persona to know your customer. That's
No,
where the
I
magic
agree.
is.
Oh, I agree wholeheartedly. And since we're talking about frameworks in terms of copywriting. You have a copywriting framework, which I've used. Where can
Website
somebody,
copy framework,
yeah, where
the
can
website
somebody
copy
go get
framework.
that? Yeah.
Yeah, I think I have a page somewhere on the site, and I promise I just not sure what the usually it's copyflat.com/WCF. And I made this determination yesterday, Rob, that I need to take all of my frameworks and put them on one page, even if it's just a hub with links to other pages, because I have other frameworks that are now something people can purchase, including the conversion credibility framework. That's one people can purchase, and the clarity. The clarity one is more of a I mean, it's really a framework too, but I think I call it brand clarity stack or something like that. I am working on creating, and the credibility framework. You can look at that page on copyflat.com/credibility. Those pages, those frameworks that I'm putting together, the credibility framework comes out of the 6P for about pages. So that's where that kind of comes from. I have the legacy brand framework. Nothing is
Yep.
purchasable for that yet. I'm putting that, integrating that into my services now. And even if you could actually, and this is something I need to push more as well, is my coaching will revolve. Some of my coaching will revolve around me teaching the frameworks and helping you implement those in your business. So whether it's the credibility framework, website copy framework, um, the legacy brand framework, the remarkable framework, which is not really, we talked about that on the podcast before, the remarkable, the REO.
We have no question.
So you can, if you sign up for a coaching session, you can request to like discuss these particular. I think what I'm going to do, and I haven't really laid this out, is like do specific sessions for each one. So like you purchase a block of three,
Yep.
that kind of thing. So we're not there yet, but I'm working on doing that, spearheading. Um, the Copy Flight website is in a, as you know, kind of being redone
Mhm.
visually as well right now. And so I do hope to have a hub page for the frameworks, and
Yep.
that can be a big part of the coaching, or you can hire me to help implement it with your business. And some of them even have documents or prompts you can purchase and do it yourself version.
Yeah. Or you can come back here also twice a month and listen to Todd share his copywriting tips and tricks because he joins me twice monthly every month. You can run over to LinkedIn and check out his LinkedIn newsletter. You've been working that
It's
pretty
called
well of late.
prompts. That
It's
yeah, it's
called
called
prompts.
prompts. And
Yeah. So
really, in I still do the newsletter for Copyflight once a week. Um, but I feel like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I have multiple channels, I guess, but prompts is
yeah.
a little different than the Copyflight newsletter. Like the one that came out yesterday was very. It was actually tidbits, like short stuff I had
Hmm.
written based on something I was prompted by, which I've learned in the human design space that I'm best creative whenever I'm prompted to do something.
Yep.
Or sometimes that comes in waves and not always easily done on a daily basis. And so anyway, but that's how I'm learning a little bit more about how I work. And that might be an episode for us down the road just to talk about human design, but I'm still learning on that. I
Yeah, we
just
should.
learned about that. So yeah.
Yep.
Well, I probably
Thanks.
should bring a friend of mine on with me about that. So,
Yep. You can always bring a friend, phone a friend who wants to be a millionaire.
yeah,
Hey, Todd,
yeah.
as always, thanks for joining me. It's so much appreciated. And we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you, my friend.
This podcast has been brought to you by Stunning Digital Marketing, your digital marketing concierge to help the business owner put all his pieces together, whether it's email marketing, WordPress security, WordPress design and development, PPC, and more. Text Stunning Digital Marketing for all your digital marketing needs today. A very special thank you to Todd for joining me on this edition of the SDM Show. The SDM Show is dedicated to my late father, Bruce Cairns. Dad, I miss you very much every day. My mother, Ann Cairns, who's still doing really well and is an inspiration. And of course, Tiz Maroney. And Tiz, I know I've said it, but thank you so much for all the inspiration you give me every day.